Okay, if you're a parent, I need you to listen up, and I need you to not just listen to what I say, but I need you to hear. This is serious, okay? It's a lot earlier than I usually make these videos. It's still morning, and I've been awake less than an hour. I did not even finish my coffee before I came up here to make this video because I got a very discerning text from a very good friend of mine, okay? I coach youth sports. I've coached for a quarter of a century, 25 years. Everything from high school down to kids that can barely walk. Had to put the ball in their hand and teach them how to throw it and teach them how to catch it. And I've coached some of these kids until they were high school, getting ready to go off to college, make it to the next level, and some of them did, okay? It's been an honor. I got a text from a very good friend of mine that I've coached with for the last half a dozen years, okay? He's a head coach. I've been his assistant for years. I'm not on his team this year because we spent this past winter in the Philippines. We came back, the season already started. We didn't have the time to commit that we have in the past, but we wanted to get involved. My son plays, it's flag football this spring. So we're on another team, great team, honored to be with a new coach, new coaching staff, made new friends. It's been great. Kept in touch with my former head coach because, again, before he is a head coach to me and I'm his assistant, we are friends. We formed a bond really close, me and this guy. He's got a good kid. His kid's my son's age. So he texted me that yesterday at their practice, he had a kid, 13-year-old kid in middle school, going around using the N-word. Okay, this is a white kid, a Caucasian kid. However, I have to say it on social media to not get canceled, yet still get my point across. Folks, this is the problem with erasing our history. You know how they say those who don't know their history are doomed to repeat it? Let me tell you, I am of the firm belief that those who want us to forget our history want us to repeat it. Take that to heart and keep it in mind, folks. But listen, we cannot forget. Okay, so this kid going around at practice using the N-word. He was a white kid, a Caucasian kid. He approached kids on a younger team because my friend coaches three teams. This guy, he's older than me. He's like 55, 56. Volunteers. He doesn't get paid for this. He's coaching 3 different teams. 1st and 2nd grade, 5th and 6th grade, 7th and 8th grade. Coaches 3 different teams, 3 different practices, twice a week, and then on Saturday, he gives up his entire Saturday away from his family to coach 3 different teams on game day. See, I've told you, I didn't have the time to commit. That's why I'm not with him, because we were gone for 5 months and we got so much stuff to get caught up on. This guy volunteers his time to do this, okay? So this player on one of his older teams, and I'm trying, listen, he was going around telling the 1st and 2nd grade team that if they meet any LGBT people to punch them in the face. Yeah. So once he got wind of it and he saw this, he took that kid aside and he had a conversation with that kid. But then the coach also had to go have a conversation. He had to call all the parents together when they came to pick their kids up and let them know what happened. Because listen, folks, if you're a teacher, if you're a coach, if you are involved with the youth organization at church, anytime you're dealing with groups of children and anybody under 18 is a child, you big old tall 17 and 16 and 15-year-old kids that tower over me and looking at, hey, coach. I'm like, oh, man, I hope this kid does. It's like that's why I don't raise cattle or have horses out here. I don't want to deal with an animal that's that much bigger than me because I'm afraid one day they might figure it out, right? I'm happy that I taught this kid how to throw and catch a ball before they were towering over me. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things you think about. But coaches, teachers, church group leaders, they have to take the parents aside and say, listen, this happened. Okay, now, Parents. This is the part you better listen to. I'm going to come at you hard and real right now. I don't even need these notes because I know what I'm going to say. Listen, once upon a time, as in a generation ago, if you heard a kid going around using the N-word, saying punch gay people, all this stuff, what was the first thing you'd think of? You'd say, well, they're getting it from somewhere, right? Well, they're getting it from home. So their mother and father that we thought were pretty good people obviously might not be. Maybe they're racist. Maybe they're homophobes. Maybe they're xenophobes, whatever. Hear me out, because you have never heard anybody say this before. I'm going to be the first person that you'll hear say this. That's no longer the case. It's no longer the case. And here's how I came to that conclusion, which really, I love to read. You know, I'm a writer. I'm a huge Sir Arthur Conan Doyle fan, the author of the Sherlock Holmes, 56 short stories and 4 novels. Deduction. Listen, this is what I have deduced, dear Watson. You can't say that anymore, because I was going to have I was talking to my wife about a conversation I feel I need to have with a certain couple of parents, a mother and father, after getting these texts from my coach. Our son has a friend who, according to our son has informed us, his friend says the N-word regularly, often, and in front of others. Okay? When he first told us this, we told our son, you should maybe distance yourself from that friend. But we know this kid. I have got to pick my words very carefully here. Let me tell you this. This kid, he's not racist. He's not racist. Yeah, he's white. Yeah, he's Caucasian. And yes, he says those things. He's not racist. Is what he says racist? Yes, undeniably and without doubt. Is this kid racist? No. Listen, hear this before they cancel me for saying what I just said. Okay? So I was talking to my wife and I said, should I talk to that kid's parents? And this is how I thought I would approach it. I wanted to tell the parents, if our son is ever into anything or doing anything that you're aware of that you know he shouldn't be, whether it's drugs, alcohol, promiscuous activity, or saying certain words that could ruin his life. Because let me tell you, that kid that was going around using that N-word and saying punch LGBTs in the face, everybody knows about it now. That will affect that kid for the rest of his childhood, the rest of his school years, and potentially for the rest of his life, unless he stops doing it and moves out of state. He's marked. And let me tell you who else is marked. The parents. Because like I alluded to earlier, everybody says, we know he's getting it from somewhere. That must be how they talk in their household, and he's just coming out in public and repeating it. A generation ago, that would be true. But it's not true anymore. No, it's not. And I bet you when his parents found out that he was saying that and using that language, they were probably just as shocked as everybody else. And I'm going to tell you why. And this goes back to why I'm saying this one kid that our son knows that uses such language, his parents would be shocked too. Because let me tell you, he's not getting it from his parents. We know his parents well. They are not racist. They are not homophobic. They do not discriminate. My wife's Asian. She's Filipino. Our son's biracial. They welcome us in their house. They invite us as guests. Okay? And these are rich white people. I'm just going to tell you, they're rich white people from the South. Born and raised in Virginia. Okay? You know where the kids are getting this stuff from? Social media. Social media. Yeah. And you know why they're getting it? And you know why the parents don't know? Because as much as I like my friends I just described, and as much as respect as I have for them, I will go out there on a limb and say this. They're not as involved as they should be. And many of you watching, neither are you. And you know what? You know, every time we point the finger at somebody, we got 3 pointing back at ourselves. Neither am I. Neither am I. I give myself a pass because I know that my wife is. Hey, listen, if you're one of my kids' friends, And I know some of you watch my stuff on social media because you've told me and I've coached you, and you come here and you hang out, and my kid goes to your place, and your parents and us, we're friends. My wife goes through my son's texts. She knows who's saying what. My wife checks my son's internet history. She looks at the cookies, browser history, whatever. She'll go into the YouTube account and see what he's watched on video. So my wife knows what he's watching. And so that's where I kind of take my lazy pass. I don't have to do that stuff because I know she's doing it. So I was talking to my wife and I said, I want to talk to so-and-so's parents because Daniel says he's using this N-word, and but I'm afraid it might cost us our friendship. But at the same time, I know that if this kid continues to do this, it's going to destroy his life. And I know this little kid isn't racist. Oh, I know. You're shocked again. You're like, if he's saying that word, he's got to be racist. Guys, the world is so different today than it was 20 years ago. You know why that kid uses that word? You know why he thinks it's okay to use that word? Because of what he watches on social media. And I didn't know this until my wife pointed this out. She says, honey, that kid's no more racist than his parents is. And I'm like, I never thought that, but why is he saying this? And should we let them know that he's doing it? And she says, the reason he's saying it is because that's all he sees on social media. I'm like, what? So then my wife pulls up some of the stuff my son watches, some of these shorts on YouTube, some of these reels on Facebook. And it's content created by black content creators, video gamers, rappers, wannabe rappers. And they're like, N-word this, N-word that. So our kids are watching that. And so they just naively and innocently, like the children they are, repeat it. Yeah. So here's the conversation we as parents need to have with our kids, and I had this with my son. Listen, if you're not black, you are not allowed to say that word. And when I said that, my son's like, oh, but they say it, black people say it, they say it, and it's like part of the song. What am I supposed to say if I'm rapping? My son loves rap, and he can like repeat a rap song like Eminem fast, like 1,000 million words a minute. But he's like, what do I do when I get to that word? I'm like, don't say it. That's it. No excuse. And this is advice I got from a guy that's a little bit older than me and been out of touch for a while, but I always considered him to be wise and knowledgeable, and many years ago, because he has a kid that's 10 or 15 years older than my kid. And so I was asking him about parental advice. I'm like, so we're in America now because my son was born in the Philippines. It was 5 before we moved here. And so it's like he was getting to that part where he's watching American culture, American pop culture, and this issue came up. And I said, how do I explain this to my kid? Because, and listen, I hear you. I know what you're saying. I know what you're thinking right now. You're like, well, if they say it, why can't we? If they don't want us to say it, then why do they say it themselves? If they don't want other people to call them that, why do they call themselves that? I totally hear you. And I brought this up to my mentor. And he says, it's this simple. It's this simple. If you're not black, you are not allowed to say that word, period. And I'm like, yeah, but. He goes, nope, no yabbits. Get your yabbit disease out of this scenario. It's this simple. It's like gravity. Gravity is real. I can say, well, yeah, but butterflies float, birds float. Gravity is real. It's a constant known fact. Same as if you are not black, you are not allowed to say that word, period. And the repercussions associated with doing so will ruin you and it will destroy you. And now I know a lot of you out there on the left are saying, oh, you're not even talking about the hate part, about how it's wrong to hate. That's a given. That's all I'm going to say about that. There's no place for hate anywhere. That's a given. I'm talking about the repercussions of what you do if you say that. If you do that, it will destroy you. It will ruin you. Okay, now listen, here's how times have changed in the last 20 years. It used to be, oh, well, he's getting it from somewhere or she's getting it from somewhere. Parents must be racist. Parents must be up there in their household saying that N-word. I guarantee you the parents of the child my son is friends with that uses that word regularly has probably never had that word cross their lips. Guarantee it. But their son does. Why? Because he's seeing it on social media. And I think if the parents do have a fault, it would be that they're not involved enough to know exactly where he's going and what he's watching on social media. And they're not the lone rangers in that battle. Most parents, including myself, okay, are in that situation. I've given myself a pass because I know my wife does that, but I'm not giving myself that pass anymore, and I'm going to be more involved. My wife's a Filipina from the Philippines, and there's parts about our culture she doesn't understand. She might be missing some stuff that I need to pick up on. So I myself am going to get more personally involved. Okay? So let me tell you how things are going to play out for that kid that yesterday, 13-year-old kid, going around saying the N-word, telling these younger kids to punch LGBTs in the face. He's marked. Okay? Listen, this is way earlier. I'm making this video before 9 a.m. Okay, even though I'm uploading in the evening because that's when most viewers are online. Blah, blah, blah. Everybody at school knows about it. The teachers, the guidance counselor, the other kids. He's marked. I'm going to tell you who else is marked, even though they may or may not have had anything to do with it. Well, they did because of being an absentee parent. The parents. That family, that household, because everybody who doesn't really understand the times we're living in are going to say, well, he's hearing it from somewhere. The parents must be saying that. They must be using that language. Maybe. But I would go out there on a limb as somebody who has worked in social media for 15 years and somebody as a Gen Xer who doesn't understand or who does understand social media more than the average 50-plus-year-old, I'd say his parents, like these friends we have whose kid says these similar things, they may have never had those words cross their lips. More than likely, in the modern times in which we live, their child picked that garbage up because of what he's viewing on social media. Listen, parents, listen, there's a post we make on our Facebook page, Sick Twisted Humor. If you're one of the almost 1 million people on that page, thanks for your support. There's a post that we make that says, giving your child an iPad or an iPhone or a gadget and then ignoring them is not proper parenting. That's neglect. And I have never seen this to the degree that I see now, ever. Now, hey, does our son have his gadgets? Yes, he got a PS5, man. He got the newest, latest gadget. He's got a smartphone. But you know what? We limit his time on it. 2 hours a day. Not all at once, broken up, and only after his schoolwork is done, his chores are done. He mows grass. He mows our grass. He helps his mother do the dishes. We don't have a dishwasher. Our house was built in 1903. There's no place to put it. And he helps with laundry. He helps on the inside and outside. He mows the grass and he washes our truck once a week. You know why? Because kids that don't work grow up to become adults that don't work. We've seen it. We have neighbors. They had always paying people to do whatever needed to be done outside. And I was like, don't you have a perfectly healthy teenager inside? Because they did. They had a 16, 17-year-old kid didn't do any work. And guess what? Now he's in his mid-20s, done doing any work. And my wife and I were like, we don't want to be like that. Okay? And now we do compensate him. We pay him. He gets some money. Okay? And we are talking about custodial Roth IRAs, so he understands investments, all this. But I'm getting off the point. Actually, I'm on the point. Parents, you have got to get involved. You have got to get involved. Because when you give that kid that gadget, that iPad, that smartphone, and you go over there, also you can do your work. Because so many of us, we're working from home now. Or maybe if you work outside the home, you come, I just want to take a break. Hey, here, kid, take this gadget, go over there. You have got to know what that kid is watching on that gadget. Okay? And you've got to have that talk. Listen, I'm a huge boxing fan. I'm a big Mike Tyson fan. I hope he knocks Jake Paul the letter F out. And if it's not scripted, I believe he'll do it in the first round. I watch Mike Tyson talk. and he'll say like, N-word, thinks he's going to knock me out. Come at me, N-word. I'm going to knock you out, N-word. And I cringe. I'm like, Mike, but of course I would never dare say anything to him about it. But I have those thoughts. I have those white people thoughts about if you don't want other people saying that to you or calling you that, you got to stop calling your peers that or stop using that word yourself. But then logic kicks in and says, yo, Mike can say what he wants. That's like, I grew up in Appalachia. I grew up in West Virginia. I can call myself a hillbilly all I want. If you're not from Appalachia and you call me a hillbilly, I will be offended. So to a degree, I can relate. But that is an issue that doesn't involve me as far as that N-word goes. And there's, I'm not black. I can't say it. You need to let your kids know that too. There's a kid right now who is marked. There's a kid's family who is marked. And I'd be willing to go out on that limb that they don't use that word at home. They just don't know what their kid's watching at home. You have got to be involved. What is your kid doing on the internet? Remember, we post this too on Sick Twisted Humor over at Facebook. Yeah, a lot of the stuff we do is jokes, most of it, but there's some real stuff over there. When you give your kid an iPhone or an iPad or a laptop, access to the internet, you don't just give your kid access to the world. You give the world access to your kid. Parent up.